Hello everyone. For World Book Day I wanted to share with you one of my favourite books, and it is called The Fantastic Flying Books of Mr. Maurice Lessmore, and the author is W.E Joyce, and I'm reading this book with the permission of the publishers Simon and Schuster. I really like this book because I think it shows how books can pass down through the generations. Okay. Here we go. The Fantastic Flying Books of Mr. Maurice Lessmore. Okay. Just bear with me one moment. Okay. Here we go. Maurice Lessmore loved words. He loved stories. He loved books. His life was a book of his own writing, one orderly page after another. He would open it every morning and write of his joys and sorrows, of all that he knew and everything that he hoped for. But every story has its upsets. One day the sky darkened, the winds blew and blew. Till everything Maurice knew was scattered, even the words of his book. He didn't know what to do or which way to go, so he began to wonder and wonder. Then a happy bit of happenstance came his way. Rather than looking down, as had become his habit, Maurice Lessmore looked up. Drifting through the sky above him, Maurice saw a lovely lady. She was being pulled along by a festive squadron of flying books. Look at all those books there. Maurice wondered if his book could fly, but it couldn't. It would only fall to the ground with a depressing thud. The flying lady knew Maurice simply needed a good story, so she sent him her favourite. The book was an amiable fellow and urged Maurice to follow him. The book led him to an extraordinary building where many books apparently nested. Maurice slowly walked inside and discovered the most mysterious and inviting room he had ever seen. It was filled with the fluttering of countless pages, and Maurice could hear the faint chatter of 1,000 different stories, as if each book was whispering an invitation to adventure. Wow, this looks exciting. Okay. Then his new friend flew up to him and landed on his arm. It held itself open as if hoping to be read. The room rustled to life. And so Maurice's life among the books began. Maurice tried to keep the books in some sort of order, but they always mixed themselves up. The tragedies needed cheering up and would visit with the comedies. The encyclopedias, weary of facts, would relax with the comic books and fictions. All in all, it was an agreeable jumble. Maurice found great satisfaction in caring for the books, gently fixing those with fragile bindings and unfolding the dog-eared pages of others. Sometimes Maurice would become lost in a book and scarcely emerge for days. Here is a picture of Mr. Maurice Lessmore being lost in his stories and in his books. Morris liked to share the books with others. Sometimes it was a favourite that everyone loved, and other times he found a lonely little volume whose tale was seldom told. Everyone's story matters, said Morris, and all the books agreed. At night, after all the stories that needed telling had been told, and everyone had settled down to their proper places on the shelves, the great big dictionary would get in the last word. Zzz, zzz, zzz. It was then that Maurice Lessmore would once again write in his own book. He wrote of his joys and sorrows, of all that he knew and everything that he hoped for. The days passed. So did the months. And then years and years. And Maurice Lessmore became stooped and crinkly, but the books never changed. Their stories stayed the same. Now his old friends took care of him, the way he had once cared for them, and they read themselves to him each night. Then one day he filled the last page in his book. He looked up and said, with a bittersweet sigh, I guess it's time for me to move on. The books were sorry, but they understood. Maurice put on his hat and took his cane. As he went to the door, he turned and smiled, then waved goodbye. I'll carry you all in here, he said, and pointed to his heart. The books waved their pages, and Maurice Lessmore flew away. And as he flew, he changed back to the way he'd been that long ago day when they'd all first met. The books were quiet for a while. Then they noticed that Maurice Lessmore had left something behind. It's his book, said his oldest friend. Inside was Maurice's story, all of his joys and sorrows, all that he knew and everything that he hoped for. Then the books heard a small, expectant sound. There in the doorway was a little girl. She looked around with wonder. Then something fantastic happened. Maurice Lessmore's book flew up to her and opened its pages. The girl began to read, and so our story ends as it began. With the opening of a book. And that's the end. Thank you for listening to my story, and happy World Book Day. What book are you going to discover today? I look forward to hearing about it. Thank you very much.